Coming up today here on the Raiders Report, we have some massive Maxx Crosby rumors that simply can't be ignored by Raider Nation, can't be ignored by me, and can't be ignored by the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, I am always up here giving you guys my honest opinion, and when big things are happening around the NFL, when big things are happening around the silver and black, my job is to do my best to keep you guys up to date. If you haven't seen the latest going on around 98, NFL insider Jay Glazer has been putting out a lot of information, and Glazer is somebody that Crosby personally trusts and that Crosby personally discusses some things with. So Glazer said, I have been on the phone with Maxx Crosby a bunch over the last couple of days. And he said, quote, he is not happy. I know that Max isn't happy, and I know that Max wasn't happy about being shut down for the entire season when it comes to everything that's been going on around Max and the Raiders. You've been hearing it, and I've been hearing it. We know that he's not happy. But I do think it's very important to put this out there, and it was said today during the Pete Carroll presser that Max is at the Raiders facility today, and Max was planning on showing up to the facility. I talked about this a little bit yesterday when I was live on the Raiders Report that Crosby was planning on being at the Raiders facility today. Let's keep on moving here, though, with the latest from Glazer and the latest around Maxx Crosby. Glazer did hint that Crosby might want to be traded. Obviously, that's very important because for Glazer to know the inside scoop, he was the person that was the very first on the scene saying that, hey, Maxx Crosby isn't happy. Crosby ended up leaving the facility when the Raiders told him on Friday that we are going to shut you down for the remainder of the season. But here's the other thing. Max has always said he doesn't want to be traded. But Glazer also said, quote, you've got to wonder now if that still holds true. So my question to everybody out there is this. Do you think Maxx Crosby wants to be traded? Give me a yes. Give me a no. You're about to get hit with a YouTube ad break. While that ad is playing, I want you to scroll on down. Give me your answer because mine's coming up here in just a moment. Until I hear otherwise, I am going to sit up here and I am going to tell you that I do not believe Maxx Crosby wants to be dealt. If you follow me on social media at MitchellRentz365, I've been putting out there because I've been seeing posts left and right. Max isn't happy. Max wants to be dealt. I am a believer that Max wants to be a Raider for life. And again, until I hear something else, that's where I'm going to stand up here, and that's what I'm going to say. For Pete Carroll to say that Max and him and the Raiders are all seeing eye to eye, that's a good story. But when you hear the fact that Glazer is saying what he is, and I'm not saying that Glazer doesn't have sources. He obviously does. But one of the things that I was told by one of my sources that Glazer and a lot of the other people out there were kind of blowing this a little bit out of proportion. I had a source tell me that Max was upset on Friday, but it was also like, all right, you're not going to let me play. I'm going to leave. I'm a little bit mentally checked out. It's during the holidays. Let me go be with my friends. Let me go be with my family. I will also say this, though. I do think a Crosby trade does seem more likely than ever before. And I said it last Friday before all the Maxx Crosby news come out because I was told last week at this time what essentially was going to end up happening with number 98 and with the Las Vegas Raiders. But y'all know the saying, where there's smoke, there is fire. And the reason why this is a massive show today is because I don't think the Raiders would have done what they have done if they also weren't a little bit worried about how upset Max was and if Max himself would want to be dealt. Actions speak louder than words. We know that. But look at these actions that the Raiders took. They put this statement out. We have made the decision to place Maxx Crosby on the reserve/injured list for the remainder of the 2025 season. After deliberate and thorough consultation with multiple top medical professionals, it became clear that this decision is in the best interest of both the franchise and the player. Max is the ultimate warrior, and he has fought extremely hard to compete each week with his teammates since injuring his knee mid-season. We are grateful for his extraordinary contributions. He is a true Raider on and off the field. We look forward to his leadership and toughness into 2026 and beyond. Let's be honest with ourselves here. Raiders haven't done that with any other player that they've shut down this season. And I think one of the reasons why they did that was to tell Raider Nation, hey, we're seeing a lot of rumors, we're seeing a lot of smoke right now, let's try to calm it down a little bit. But I also think that was the message to Max and being like, hey, yeah, I know you're upset. You deserve to be upset. But at the exact same time, we want you to be a part of this organization now, and we want you to be a part of this organization in the future. The reason why I think that statement is important to note is because Maxx has threatened to be traded before. I don't know if y'all already forget about that. When the Raiders fired Josh McDaniels, right? And the Raiders were thinking about keeping Antonio Pierce as the next head coach when he was the interim. Maxx flat out, I don't remember the exact quote, but Maxx did threaten, if you don't keep Antonio Pierce, I'm going to be more likely to want out. And I know Maxx is tired of all the coaching turnover. He wants stability. I want stability. You want stability. But the Raiders are going to fire Pete Carroll this offseason. I think they're honestly going to do it a week from today, and they're going to hire a new head coach. So that's not stability. That's moving on from another head coach and figuring out what we're going to do. So all I'm going to say is this. Maxx threatened to be traded before. I'm not saying he's going to do it again, but the thought of him not doing it, I think we got to realize this offseason is the most likely that we have ever seen that Maxx Crosby could be dealt. That's me putting my Raiders cap on. Me putting my Raider heart right here says, I never want the Raiders to trade away Maxx Crosby. But this offseason is going to be the craziest offseason ever. I think in your heart of hearts you know it's going to be the craziest offseason ever. And I'm not an insider. I'm not a beat reporter. But when I get information, y'all know it. So as soon as I hear anything about 98 Maxx Crosby, I'm going to make a video about it. I'm going to tell you guys. That's why you got to subscribe. It's why you got to turn on those notifications, because when Maxx stuff happens this offseason, there's going to be a lot of smoke out there. And there is a lot of smoke. But there's a difference between far-fetched rumors and actually good rumors. And the good rumors that you're going to get on this program are important. So that way when you see the smoke, you don't lead yourself to the bad fire. When you see good smoke, I want you to remember where you heard it from. And if you didn't see the video that I did on Friday about a Maxx Crosby trade that could happen during the 2026 offseason, money talks. And the way that Maxx structured his own contract and the way the Raiders structured his contract, on top of all the other reasons why I outlined in this video that a deal could end up happening, if you didn't see it, I encourage you to go out and check it out. This will be available all down in the comments, down in the description of today's show. Coming up next here on the Raiders Report, Crosby, Maxx, I hope you hear what I'm about to say. And I have the utmost love for 98. I think everybody watching the show, if you got the utmost love for 98, give me a 98 down below. But I got a message for Maxx, and I hope that you hear this. And I hope that you know that all of us here, I would imagine, feel the exact same way. Before I get into my message here to Maxx Crosby, today's show is sponsored by Prize Picks. Whether you're starting a new routine or making player picks for the first time, try something new. It can be hard. But in life and on Prize Picks, it always feels good to be right. With high-pressure playoff matchups every weekend and elite hoops action almost every night, the action never stops, and Prize Picks lets you take control. So the lineup that you're going to see is the lineup that I'm rolling with tonight. Blake Corum, give me the more on 7.5 fantasy. With this Rams game being a little bit up in the air, you could see them resting some of their starters. And one position that I would rest is the running back position. So backup running back Blake Corum could get some extra work up against the Atlanta Falcons, a team that I expect the Rams to be able to go out there and win. Also Corum, 3 or 4 straight weeks with more than 7.5 fantasy score. For Cooper Flagg, if he doesn't score more than that, well, I don't know what to tell you. But this lineup that you see is a 2-pick power play. So essentially, if Corum goes off for 7.5 fantasy, I'm turning $20 into $60. I feel pretty good about that. And if you want to roll with my lineup, get in the action right now, because Prize Picks is now available in all 50 states. Download the Prize Picks app today. Make sure that you use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. So let's get into this next part of this show, because you've heard the rumors from Jay Glazer. I'm sure if you're on social media, you've seen people posting stuff left and right about Maxx doesn't want to be here, Maxx this, Maxx this. The reason why I wanted to make this show today, Maxx, is because I believe in you. And I believe you want to be a Raider for life. But let me be very clear on this. At this point, the ball, I think, is kind of in your court a little bit. And I hope what I say on this show doesn't offend you. I hope you know at the end of the day, I want you to be a Raider for life. But at the same time, I always got to have to speak my mind, and I got to back up what Raider Nation I think is thinking right now. So my first message here to Maxx Crosby is silence the trade noise. If you don't want to be traded, let everybody in the world know, right? Just like before you said, hey, I would think about being traded, but then also how many times have you doubled down and say, I want to be a Raider for life. I don't want to be traded. I want to be a Raider for life. I'm asking you to kind of do the exact same thing here because, Max, you're allowed to be mad. And I get it. But trade noise goes away if you sit up here on social media, if you take the podium and you say, I want to be a Raider. And I know you're probably sitting here going, man, I feel like I do this every single offseason. I feel like I do it multiple times in the regular season. But also when your actions are your actions, and because you are Maxx Crosby, because you're one of the greatest players on the planet, because you are the face of this franchise, when you leave early and everybody's reporting that you're not happy with the team, unfortunately, you got to say those words again. And I think if you make that announcement very clear that, hey, yes, I was upset on Friday. Yeah, I don't agree with being shut down, but let's be very clear here. I want to be a Raider for life. You make that announcement, that's huge in shutting down all these trade rumors because Mark Davis has always done right by Max. And I know that we have not won a lot, but Mark Davis has always made Maxx Crosby the priority. And Max knows if he stays in Las Vegas, the amount of money he's going to make after his football career. He knows that if he's a Raider for life, he's going to get part-time ownership. You know it. I know it, Max. So to me, if you want to silence some of this trade noise, the ball is in your court. If you don't want to silence the trade noise, I think that might be the loudest statement of all. Let's go to the next message here that I have for 98 the Condor. The IG stories are not a good look. And I can imagine you as an athlete, and I can imagine, where you shared the stories from. You and your family, you're just trying to celebrate the holidays. You're just trying to have a good time with your daughter. And I want to be clear. I don't think the Instagram stories are a big deal at all. I really don't. I have commented this multiple times on IG. I've commented this multiple times on Twitter. If you think Maxx Crosby doing what he did in those IG videos of him shooting a basketball is a big deal on his knee, then you've never played a sport in your entire life. I've played an entire month of pickup basketball on a torn ACL, and I ain't even close to the athlete Maxx Crosby is. If you got a problem with him on a trampoline, he's not jumping up and down, but this is also a guy that thought he could play in an NFL game. All I see is somebody that's spending time with his daughter, and the problem with social media is people think, oh, the Raiders are shutting him down. Max posting this stuff is a message. I personally don't think it's a message at all. I think this is just Crosby enjoying time with his family, enjoying time with his daughter. But I also understand the timing because timing is everything in life. And when you have the message of, hey, I'm not really happy right now, I'm going to leave practice, they're shutting me down for the season, and then there's videos of you playing basketball and being on a trampoline, I get how it doesn't look good. But the only reason why this is a story is because you are Maxx Crosby, because you're one of the best on the planet, because you're the face of the franchise, and everybody knows that you are the number one trade asset that everybody wants. If you weren't Maxx Crosby, that wouldn't be a problem. But you're Maxx Crosby. Let's go to my next message here that I have for the Condor. The Raiders are protecting you from you, and I know that you're a warrior. You know that you're a warrior. I bet you everybody in your circle knows that you're kind of a psycho, and I mean that in the best way possible. I mean it in the most respectable Raider way possible because I think you are the true definition of a Raider, of commitment to excellence, where you better cut my leg off because I'm going to go out there and play. I've been covering the NFL for 8+ years. I don't know if I've ever seen a player go from out to doubtful to playing in a game, and that happened a few years ago when Max had a knee injury that was literally life-threatening, okay? So to me, I understand why people are a little bit worried about them shutting them down. But also, again, you were willing to put your life on the line for meaningless football games at the time that season was happening. I think the Raiders had to go put you down for the remainder of the season because they knew in the back of your mind, if you're willing to risk your life to go play football, sometimes you got to protect somebody from their own self. And I want to give a shout out here to Ryan Holmes, and I've mentioned this tweet multiple times on the show this week. For all the outrage over shutting down Maxx Crosby, he has been on the injury report going back to Week 5. Since Thursday's practice of Week 12, Crosby has been limited or did not participate in 12 of the 17 practices. So I found this photo again from Ryan. Thank you very much, Ryan. And he essentially outlines all the practices where Maxx has been there and he hasn't been there. So anybody saying that the knee injury is just fake and the Raiders are just doing XYZ to secure a pick, they did do this to secure a pick, but they also did it because Maxx has been dealing with a knee injury for the entire season since week 5. Also, Maxx has been dealing with multiple knee injuries over the past few seasons. The reason why the Raiders shut you down, Maxx, is because they are protecting you from you. If you wouldn't try to play through literally every injury, and again, I respect the warrior in you, but then you also got to sit back and go, well, yeah, they have to do that because you literally have to cut my leg off for me not to play. So again, they're protecting you from you because they want you to be a part of this organization for the long haul, because they know you are one of our most important assets to attract the top head coach that we could potentially get. The next reason here that I'm looking at you, Maxx, is the Raiders want you for life, dude. You know it deep in your, you know what I mean? Like, you know that Mark Davis loves you to the end of the world and back. You know that your relationship with Mark is I think the best non-quarterback with owner relationship in the National Football League. But the Raiders shutting Maxx down only helps the Raiders for the future, because God forbid you get injured in week 17, week 18. Let's say our head coach we could have got was this good. I think now head coach that we could have gotten is this good, because if I'm going to put a resume down of why I want this guy to be my head coach, we didn't get Ben Johnson. We didn't get Mike Vrabel because that job, the Raiders' current job, wasn't good enough. To make this job the most appealing it possibly can, to make this an A-plus job out there, you got to be 100% healthy. And that's what this is doing. The number one pick helps us get the best head coach. A healthy Maxx Crosby helps us get the best head coach. Ownership, front office knows that Crosby playing could hurt their future. So when we're talking about the future, and it's also a contract that you decided to sign, the contract that you decided to sign, Maxx, told me everything, that you're going to front load the deal and you're going to back load it to put yourself in the best situation to win in 2026, 2027. You can't sign that contract in 2025, I think, and then get upset with the current state that the Raiders are in as it stands right now. So this is going to be my final message to Maxx Crosby. And Maxx, again, I got the utmost respect for you. You've been the number one player that I've communicated with since my time here at the Raiders Report. But nobody is above the Shield. Nobody is above the Raiders. And if Maxx can't get on board, if 98 can't get on board with the Raiders' plan, then it is time to trade him. Because this has been an organization that has done everything monetary related and everything from a listening to a player perspective that Maxx Crosby possibly could have wanted. I get that we're not winning football games, and I get you want to go out there and you want to win. But if Maxx doesn't see the IR designation as benefiting him and the Las Vegas Raiders, I actually think it's pretty unfortunate. I think it's kind of sad. But Maxx restructured his contract to pay him more up front. You don't see too many deals in today's day and age in the NFL where it's front-loaded. And Maxx's contract filled with a bunch of guarantees, guaranteed him for 2025, 2026, and because Maxx is going to get this surgery, it guarantees him for 2027. I would love to be able to have a job where I know no matter what the hell I do, my money is absolutely positively guaranteed for essentially 3 years. And when you look at that contract, the fact that Maxx asked for it to be front-loaded, Mark Davis said yes. The fact that this has been an organization that has been looking for a quarterback as long as they have, and they have made Maxx Crosby the top priority. If Maxx can't get on board with the Raiders' plan, which clearly is we're looking towards the future, we're looking towards 2026. If Maxx cares more about playing in Week 17 and Week 18, I get it. Wants to go play out there with his brothers. Wants to go show the world that he's the greatest on the planet. I get it. But you can't sign certain contracts, and you can't say that you want to be a Raider for life, and then when the plan is the plan, you can't get upset and then deviate from that plan. Nobody is above the Shield. So I want to be clear. If Maxx Crosby is not on board with the Raiders' plan to be the best version of themselves in 2026 and beyond, it is time to trade Maxx Crosby. Because you want to talk about a rebuild. You want to talk about a full rebuild. The number one player you're going to be able to do a full rebuild with is moving on from 98. But I don't want to move on from 98. I want 98 to be a Raider for life. So at the end of this video, I've been getting asked by a few people, shout out to all y'all, you know who you are, hey man, could you make a Maxx Crosby trade video? And again, not that they want Max to be dealt, it's your potential suitors. What is he going to go for in a trade? How does the contract work out? If Max is dealt, what does that do for us for free agency? When does that deal have to happen? There's a lot of questions that I'm getting asked here every single day. So I'm going to put the ball in Raider Nation's court here. If this video that you're watching gets over 1,000 likes, I will make a Maxx Crosby trade video maybe this week, maybe next week, but at the end of the day, y'all have a voice. Let me know it down below. Hit that like button if you want to see a Maxx Crosby trade video in the future.